4-quarter show. That means it must be Monday. My name's Nate Albaugh, assistant football coach at Unity High School in Tolono, Illinois. Never heard of it? That's okay. Nobody really has. It's a tiny town, but we're near the University of Illinois, so hopefully that helps you some. And I have got a lineup for you today that I'm very excited about. We're here to talk ball. We got 4 high school football coaches, 4 quick topics, and let me just hit the ground running. First up, I got Coach Dub Maddox. And Coach, what's your Twitter handle?
At Coach Dub Maddox.
At Coach Dub Maddox. And Coach Maddox, pretty well known on the online world, runs an owner of that R4 system that I've heard a lot about and learned a lot about in the OC at Union High School. So look him up on Twitter, give him a follow. And first year at Union, and you had some Jenks blood in you. How long did it take? Was it the first time you put on the red hat, your blood changed from maroon to red?
Yeah, pretty much. I had a 2-year hiatus. I was a head coach at Victory Christian High School for 2 years, and then got a great opportunity to work with an outstanding head coach, Coach Frederick, and he recruited me over here, and excited to be back at the 6A level in Oklahoma. Well,
I'm sure you got a big year ahead of you, and that is exciting times, man. And next up, I've got Coach JT O'Sullivan. And, Coach, hit him with your Twitter handle.
You know what? I just had to look at my phone because I honestly didn't remember. It's something JT O'Sullivan _ somewhere in there.
Okay. Look him up. You'll find him. Also, QB School, right?
Yeah.
And has an incredible YouTube channel. And you may know Coach O'Sullivan because he played in the league. Probably makes him the official best football player in the house. It's not very hard to beat me, I'll tell you that. I know that I am 4th of 4. Played in the league for 9 years, or debatable, some years in there. That's a long NFL career, Coach. And last year, stepped right into coaching high school football at Patrick Henry High School in San Diego. Give us a quick, what's one thing that surprised you about coaching high school football, maybe that you're like, okay, maybe I wasn't expecting that?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably the unsolicited advice. You know, that's
right?
probably if I would have thought about it, probably would have guessed it, but it comes from everywhere.
Doesn't it? Yeah, they have rolled in the play sheets into your mailbox. Like, maybe think about these.
Not yet, but I'm sure it's coming. Everybody's, it's more. It's always the stuff you don't think about that they got. I feel like we maybe have the X's and O's covered a little bit, but it's always something where somebody's got a suggestion.
Well, thank goodness for them, all right? Because honestly, that's why they come watch us on Friday nights, is because they think they got a pretty good idea of what's going on. So, yeah, you got to take the good with the bad and being a high school football coach. And last but not least, this is the man who scores more points than any human being I've ever heard of in a football game. And that is no exaggeration. Super impressive. This is Tim Thornton. Coach, what's your Twitter handle?
We're at Peoria Football.
At Peoria Football, and Peoria High School was the state champs in 2016. They score stupid amounts of points, and I mean that literally. It is unseen, unheard of numbers, and I think still the current state record holders for most points in a playoff game at 96. They make it look easy, so look out. You're lucky you don't have to defend them. I had to defend you once upon a time, and we gave up 74. And we felt crappy about that until you put up 60 whatever in the state title game. And I went, okay, it is what it is. They score. They're hard to stop. Well, Coach, welcome. And do you ever sit back and think, okay, how do I get better at offense? Or how do you resist going, okay, I got the offense thing?
No, we attack it every year. Like, what do we got to do to keep this up? What do we got to do to improve on it? And, every year is a different year anyway. So you've got a different group of kids. It's not like college where you kind of get to go look for exactly what you want. So we've kind of done it different personnel groups each year. And so we're on it all the time.
Man. Now, surely though, your fans, listen, I ran the wing T, so my fans always want to see me do something different. Surely your fans are content with your offense, or do you still get advice?
No, not even close. This is why I laughed when you asked Coach O'Sullivan about it. It was in that game we scored 74. When we scored our last one, we had just got to where we were just running power, and someone from the crowd, as the tailback's running for 60 yards, yells, "Open up the playbook, Coach." And so we get it all the time still, and it's all right. If they're talking about it, they're talking about it. Like as long as they're talking about us, like I don't care. It's fine.
You can't win that battle. Well, that makes me feel better. That is an unwinnable battle. Guys, let's jump in. It's time for the first quarter. And the first quarter, I try to ask a get-to-know-you question. And this is my question for you. You're on your way to a football game. Don't tell me why you're not, or don't ask me why you're not with the team. We're going to assume you're not with the team, and you're on the way to the varsity football game Friday night. It starts in 10 minutes. Something happens and you can't make the first half, right? So you got to send a message with your wife, your significant other. Send one message, right, with someone who doesn't speak football to your staff. Guys, I'll be there after halftime. Just do blank until I get back. What is that one piece of advice you're going to send to your staff before you get back? Let's kick it off with Coach O'Sullivan. What are you sending? What message are you sending?
I mean, I'm just going to say be us. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know what really would change. You know, we're pretty explicit about what our principles are as far as what we're trying to do at all times. I hope I do a good job instilling what that looks like. But beyond me calling the plays, you know, I feel comfortable with about 3 people on our staff calling the plays and maybe even the quarterbacks. And so it's they know what we're trying to do. We're trying to be as fast as we can be. We're trying to be as aggressive as we can be. We go full Pulaski Academy, so there's not a lot of, you know, in-game decisions. There is no punt team. There is no kickoff team. You know, those things allow, you know, a lot of that in-game decision-making to take care of itself. I think as long as they felt confident to go be us, and we go from there.
Dude, I appreciate that confidence, man. I feel like I would want to say the same thing, but I don't know if I could say it with the same confidence, probably because I'm too big of a warrior. Coach Maddox, what would be your words?
Run mesh.
Live by it. You guys run it quite a bit?
No, it's a joke that a lot of people will get. I'm constantly raging against mesh, but it's if I'm an air raid guy, that's the answer. Just run mesh. It answers everything. No, I think to piggyback on what JT was talking about, I think the way we practice and the way we teach using the R4 system, we try to empower our assistant coaches and players to see the game the same and use that common language. So the way we practice sets up how we're going to call the game. So, I mean, that whole concept was built out of, if I die, this team doesn't miss a beat. I mean, that's my goal. Like, if I don't show up, we should be able to keep running just like it was. And I think that's when you empower your staff and your players and give them that. I think that's the funnest environment you can be in as a coach.
Man, you guys got good answers. I love the confidence. Coach Thornton, you in the same boat?
Yeah, I think it's real similar. You know, if I just had to pass the message on it, technically it'd just tell them FHFERO, and that would mean everything to the guys and to the coaches. But the bottom line is I've got a phenomenal staff. I've got guys that are competent that could do this. If I wasn't there, I'd feel confident with it running the way that it should run anyway. But to answer your question, just get that fast, hard finish, and then that E+R=O, where we're make sure we're checking our R's and our responses and handling what comes our way. And I don't think I'd be as nervous as the question kind of made it seem. Like I think they'd roll with it. I think they do well. Yeah.
I think if I had to pass it on, because in my first thought, when I thought about that, my first thought was one of my guys is going to call offense for the first time. Right. And so I'm like, okay, he's going to call offense for the first time in his life. And I think my last words would just say, don't feel like you have to be a superhuman right now, or don't feel like you have to be a genius right now. Just keep it simple, run trap. Right. Just like I would, my fear, I think, at least I think about myself, when I really start thinking about offense for the first time, like you're getting your first crack at it. You want to be a hero. So maybe they try to take it maybe too far. Maybe they try to do too much with the offense when hopefully our offenses are built to work. And you don't have to be a mad scientist. All right, guys, quarter number 2. Let's go to quarter number 2. I like this question. And I'm going to send this one over to you, Coach Thornton. You're going to kick this one off. The last time you recognized a weakness in your own coaching ability?
I don't know if it's the last time or the same weakness over and over and over. But my I know my organizational skills are not where they need to be. I have a tendency to try to store most of it up here instead of putting it, organized on paper or catalog it in videos or any of that kind of stuff. So that's definitely where I lack. And I just try to make sure that I surround myself with people that can overcompensate for that and that can make up the gap.
So for you, that's something you feel like is consistent. You're consistently aware of a weakness.
Yeah, I have a lot of great ideas on how to be organized, and it just don't have the discipline in that area to follow through with it. And I don't know. I got guys that kind of log all that stuff for us and take care of it, and I think
I can relate with that. And that's the beauty of having a staff, is that we get multiple men around and we hopefully have men with strengths in other areas. Coach O'Sullivan, what's something that you recognize? And here's the thing, I have to feel like, listen, you're coming from obviously an incredible athletic career. And we're all men, we're all prideful. We're prideful as human beings. I have to believe that you're coming from a place that humility has to be hard when you're like, listen, I'm better at football than anyone I know. Most people I know of my whole life, I'm better than all of them at football. So humility is hard for everyone. How do you grasp humility yourself? And obviously just the initial question, what's something you've noticed where you maybe have weaknesses yourself?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, I made a career of being probably the worst football player on the field, if not the team. And so, I've never had to, that part of it is a little bit different than maybe when you're growing up, element of being humble. But as far as the question, I'll be honest with y'all, I feel weaknesses constantly. There's not a time that, I feel like it's, all going in the right direction necessarily. For me, probably the one that comes to kind of the front right now is just dealing with what's going on in the world, as far as being an educator, someone who, has a responsibility to talk to a team of young people and make sense or try to make sense or provide a platform to talk about George Floyd, talk about, the protests going on, talk about, feelings that maybe I'm not necessarily qualified as a coach, a football coach, to necessarily to have the capacity to have those conversations. And so I was really struggling with it last week and really just reached out to the staff. And we have a great staff, and I kind of chuckle and I want to call you out a little bit, Nate, because we have our whole freshman staff is women. They're so good that I promoted 2 of them to the varsity level. They are outstanding educators. And so, for us, I'm really intentional about creating that environment in the program because I want it to be a representation of what the team looks like, the school looks like, and I think it pushes football in the right direction. And you have to be intentional with that. But they helped me a lot kind of craft our plan as far as what we wanted to do, how we wanted to talk about it, what that communication looked like, and then what kind of the final outputs and, what some action items are that we can do together as a program to kind of, heal, educate, move some of these things forward in our little, possible way to make an impact in our community. And so that was the first, I felt this huge weakness last week, just not having the capacity to deal with these things.
I like that. When I was at Central, I had a woman on staff that I recruited every year to coach. She was perfect. She was built to coach, and she turned me down every year, doubting her abilities. But I swore she could have been an incredible football coach. Well, Coach Sullivan, I appreciate that humility. I appreciate that answer. Coach Maddox, how about yourself, man? You're seen as an expert in the field of offense, obviously, and you are an expert. But do you recognize weaknesses within yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, all the time. And I think that's, anything that we create or in credit to the R4 system is built on my weaknesses or failures. So I'm constantly trying to, identify those and improve on those. I think probably the biggest weakness that I self-discovered was a few years ago, and I was filming some drills, some quarterback drills, and kind of just listening to how I coach my players was very shocking. When I first got into coaching, I was mentored by some great men. And I think one of the things that was instilled in me at that moment in time, this was 20 years ago, was, you find something wrong every play and you coach a fire out of it. And that's what I, deemed as what coaching is. It's constantly identifying, something wrong and constant talking, active, never standing still, hands aren't in the pockets, arms aren't folded. So as I took that approach with coaching quarterbacks, what I find is kids start to tune you out. And I was constantly telling them what to do. And I could see that on the film. And so for me, I think, this hit me on the head when I was talking to one of my friends. This guy runs a hospital, and he's a doctor, and he's on a board of hiring doctors. And he said, he said to me one day, he said, you know what makes the best doctors? And I said, well, no. I mean, obviously I don't. You do. So tell me. And he said, well, it's not, everyone knows the answers. Everyone has passed their exams. They know the answers to the questions. But it's the ability to know the right questions to ask to get the answer. He goes, so it's in your questioning is what makes you great. And I think looking outside your domain, we're all in the domain of football. But when you look at what makes someone elite in any domain, it's really their ability to ask the right questions and ask leading questions to guide your players to the answer. And I think, that was a big shift for me in my coaching experience. And since then, I think I'm able to get through the players way faster. And I understand if they know the information based on asking those questions. So to me, that was a big one for me. And I think a lot of coaches can benefit from that is, kind of filming yourself and looking your player's face and you'll find out real quick if they're paying attention or really soaking it up. So for me, that was a big one.
Wow, man, Coach, that's a really good answer, man. I appreciate that humility as well. And it is just like that constant identifying of in what ways can I be better. And it's amazing how we can pull so many ideas from other fields as well. And sometimes we pull one of our best ideas sometimes from something maybe that wasn't expected at all. We weren't thinking football, and then we got our best football idea ever from something else, man. Well, good, man. I really appreciate that humility, fellas. I guess I feel like I'm obligated to tell a weakness of mine. I've noticed that I have streaks of play calling where I can feel it literally where my brain, it cannot function and cannot think quickly anymore. It goes in these streaks, and it will happen in a game where I suddenly can't even remember anything outside of my base 2 or 3 plays. And I'm going, well, I literally will hit this wall. And so when I recognized that in myself, I had to build systems around that so that when that happened in the game, I could quickly identify and go, we got to go to, or, I had my buddies that you got to take this. I can't even think right now. And boy, you want to talk about noticing a huge weakness that kind of scared me a little bit. I'm like, holy, my goodness. I mean, I'm really going to hurt our team if all of a sudden I can't even think in the middle of a game. Well, fellas, it is time for halftime. I usually have a script that I read at this time. I don't have that script. So I just want to share with everybody that we have an online clinic, all of our viewers, online clinic. Check us out at clinic.chiefpigskin.com, posting new stuff all the time. And just posted 2 new videos. And this morning was coaching quarterbacks in the Carolina shoot with Justin Clark. And later this week comes one of my favorite series from Donald Herman, a retired football coach, on Martha's Vineyard, which is one of those islands off Massachusetts, outside of Boston, and a retired coach who kind of shares stories from a long, successful career and worth a watch for any high school football coach. Check us out at clinic.chiefpigskin.com. Men, that's halftime. It is time for quarter number 3. And now we're going to talk quarterbacks a little bit. I'm excited about this topic with you guys. We got a former NFL quarterback in the house. We got 2 offensive experts in the house. And I love hearing about these from you guys. Deciding who gets reps at the QB spot at the freshman level. The reason why I wanted this question is because I felt like in the world of quarterbacks more than any other, when the freshmen roll in, it's almost like they've already self-identified their quarterback, whether it was the kid who was their youth quarterback or who knows, right? But now all of a sudden things are different. Kids mature at different rates. I might have some kid that's turning into, wasn't always the stud, but turning into. I've always wondered, how open do I leave that QB spot at the freshman level? How do you find that correct guy? Coach Maddox, I don't think you've kicked us off yet. Well, I'll give you the floor first.
Yeah, well, I think it depends on the level of school you're at in terms of enrollment and stuff. At the bigger schools, we let the freshman coaches dictate who the starter is, and we kind of trust their judgment. I think, if you're on a smaller staff and you have a little bit more, for example, I was at a 2A school for 2 years, and, we coached the junior high all the way up. I think it's a little bit different. You can identify that guy and kind of put, in position. I think the challenge is what you got to remember, though, is, a lot of times when you're, most coaches will put the best athlete at quarterback at the youth or junior high, and you kind of put that kid that's the best athlete. He may not always turn out to be the best quarterback as you get into high school. So I think, you got to be able to, identify, kind of that. I think for me, a lot of kids will, like you said, develop earlier. And so that's another thing you got to consider. I mean, the best quarterbacks I've had have not been the starter in junior high or freshman. For whatever reason, I think, some of the top quarterbacks I've had are guys that are just late bloomers, and they get in that sophomore and that junior year, and they kind of, hit that growing spurt, and they have those intangibles that a lot of coaches can't see. To me, the ability to perform under pressure is crucial. And so I think that's the number one thing you got to look at besides just raw athletic ability is, can that kid, perform when the lights are on a big stage? So I know kind of a few different answers to that question, but I think, if you have a big enough staff, guys, you trust letting them dictate that. But if you have more control, try to project a little bit and make sure that, you're looking for you're factoring in that growth factor, if that kid's an early bloomer or whatnot.
So you're at a big school. Let me interject real quick at Union. About what would be your guess? How many kids are going to get meaningful QB reps at the freshman level in a year like this?
Yeah, there's 2 freshmen teams, and so really you got two positions. Sometimes there's an A team and a B team, so really you're going to have one legitimate guy per class. Some years you might get lucky and get 2, but that kid's probably going to be playing another position. So, you want 1 per class.
Coach Thornton, let me go to you to go second here. You got a machine going, an offensive machine. I got to believe kids are coming in now at Peoria, obviously going, okay, I'm going to be that next superstar. What are you doing at that freshman level with your QBs?
So just to kind of set it up, Coach Maddox, I think, hit it on the head a little bit with the size of the school making a big difference. We're 5A, 6A out of 8. So we're on the upper end, but not huge. And we don't have a true feeder system. Our city has JFL, but they're not tied to the high school. It's more of a park district type setup. So we don't know for sure who we're getting until they show up a little bit. We got an idea. But what we try to do is really try to get at least 2, and we'll try to split those reps 50-50, even if it's obvious. And if it's obvious to the point where one's just fantastic and the other one's just kind of a stopgap, going to be a career backup type, even if you can do something else, we still try to keep those reps 50-50 at the freshman level. And then if that kid's real good, maybe get him 50% of the reps at the next level. Move him up and try to get him some at another, depending on the depth at that next level, obviously also at the JV level. But we'll try to maintain that 50-50 ratio all the way up through JV until it's a true varsity guy. And what we found in the past is, and we've had some good ones come through, but we've got one at Illinois right now, and even when he came through, he was 50-50 as a freshman, and because he was still figuring life out, he didn't go do the JV stuff yet, but then once he moved up, it still worked out all right with the training and with the ability and where you needed them and the reps. And we found in the past that some of the guys that we thought were the bottom 50, that were getting the bottom half of the reps, ended up being our guy. We like you said, some guys that developed late. The one that's at Illinois had to play a little bit of lineman in JFL because of the weight limit rule.
Yeah.
And then the one that we just had that was an all-state guy for us, Hernandez, was a lineman because he was just a little short, chubby kid, and then all of a sudden kind of sprouted up late, and he was a baseball guy, so the arm was there, and he was a smart kid, and so he was a guy that maybe wasn't your first choice coming in, and ended up being an all-state guy for us. So we really try to keep those reps spread as much as possible until we've got a true varsity guy.
I like that. I feel like it's a temptation that's hard to fight because, everybody wants to win and the freshman coaches want to win too. So I'm sure that's, I like that. I like hearing that. Coach O'Sullivan, you're kind of the rookie coach in the house, and you haven't had a ton of years to kind of watch a freshman grow into the stud. So how are you handling this?
For me, I think it goes back to the philosophical approach of what the freshman program is for us. We're a school that's trying to build our numbers. So it's one of those things where we need as many people as possible to play football. So it's less about hey, bro, you get 33% of the reps, you get 33% of the reps. Hey, everybody gets to play quarterback. It's more about we're trying to create the best experience possible for these freshmen so that they continue to build our program, and we kind of go from the ground up. And so I've never thought about it for 1 second. And to be honest with you, I don't care. You know, I want them to have a great experience. I'm not going to get into the minutia of, you know, who plays what snap at any position at any level other than the varsity level. I trust our coaches, and they understand. I hope they understand what the overarching goals are as far as to have a great experience and to develop as a program. And I trust them to go from there. You know, to echo everyone else's standpoint, the other thing that I would add as far as our development with freshman quarterbacks really won't happen until the first off season. You know, I'm not going to – that's where I will spend a significant amount of time with them, you know, going through our kind of how we install, how we talk, how we get on the same lexicon, all those things. I'm not going to go down there and worry about, you know, what they're doing, you know, that first camp by any means. And I have no idea who's coming in. Same way as far as different feeders. You know, we've had flag football guys, we've had baseball players, you know, soccer players, internationals, you know, we're a high military area where people will move in and out all the time. And so we're just trying to create the best experience possible.
Good take, man. Good take. I appreciate that, man. Let's move on. No sense hearing from me. I don't know anything about quarterbacks. Quarter number 4. This one I find interesting. Obviously, at the college level, I think you see it more. But at that high school level, when would you feel – what would make you say blank might warrant a quarterback change? I think everybody has kicked one off. But Coach O'Sullivan, I'm going to start with you for this one because you took over a program for the first time, and I feel like sometimes that's when they can happen the most. So maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but let's let you go first. What would warrant a QB change at the varsity level, whether it be mid-season or early season?
I really don't know if it's different than any other position. You know, I've been changed as a player. I've been gone in as a player. I've as far as making that change for me, it always comes back to what's in the best interest of the team. What's going to give us the best opportunity to win. That's the message that I try to talk about all the time as far as who gets to play, best 11. You know, I'm not necessarily personnel driven by what we do. It's the best 22 or really the best 33. And so those are the opportunities for me. As far as the competition thing, I've been in enough competitions to know that the cream usually rises to the top, and I'm not going to jump ship just because somebody has a bad half. You know, I've thrown 5 picks and a half. I know what it feels like to feel like maybe I need to take a seat from the sideline for a little while to see the game different. But, you know, for me, I don't know necessarily that it changes depending on the quarterback position as opposed to, you know, the guard or, you know, for us last year, we went basically from 11 personnel to 10 personnel. Just because I thought our 10 personnel were better as a base. And so that was a midseason change that, you know, philosophically sat someone who wasn't necessarily a bad football player, but just gave us a better chance to be consistently good. And so that would be my message, and that would be how I would communicate. And that's how I communicate with a group. We've got 3 people competing for the job right now. You know, we're in a tough situation where we don't get to spend a lot of time, if any, together. But my thing is, hey, I'm going to be open. That's how I always wanted the best competitions to be. Hey, here's the situation. I'm going to be as much candor as possible. I'm going to coach you all very hard and give you as much honesty as I possibly can. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, most competitions, it's not that hard to see who deserves to be on the field.
Well, you sure make it sound easy. But my problem has always been, because I have felt before that I felt like it had to happen, and I've probably delayed maybe 1-2 weeks longer than I should have, because, you know, the emotion of that, making that change, maybe I probably think about it too much. I guess I think about it too much. I worry about that kid, and I don't want to, you know, we're all nice people, I think, too. We don't want to take that from that kid. Coach Maddox, let me go to you. What have you had to make any changes? What inspired that?
Yeah, and I've lived through a lot of them. I think the first thing you look at is, do you have a viable backup? If you don't,
right, yeah, sure,
you got what you got, you know. I mean, so I think that's the first thing you got to look at. I think, you know, the number one thing for me is when a quarterback is uncoachable and unwilling to change. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes, but, you know, when you get a kid that's in that pattern and he's unwilling to change, you know, that's probably, you know, when we have to make a decision. You know, I think the other challenge with this position is, you know, there's, you know, all the positions, face this, but the quarterback, the ability to handle pressure, I think, and a problem that I found, going into seasons where you're unsure of who the guy is you'll have that guy that's great on the film room, and he's great in practice, but when the lights are on and the bullets are flying, I mean, he just, it all goes out the window. And, there's a growing period. There's some growing pains you're always going to have to go through when you have that type of kid, but there's going to come a point where, some guys just can't handle that position in that aspect, and they'll never be able to like you need it. So that's when, those are range, unwilling to be coachable. And then you have that kid that looks like $1 million, but just, he's never going to be able to thrive in that pressure environment. So I think, that's two of the main ones that we've had.
All right. Good take, man. Coach Thornton, any experience? Have you ever had to change mid-season?
Never had to change mid-season for any reason other than like uncontrollable things. So, like some injury here or something to that effect. I think it's an interesting question, though, and I think it's time sensitive also with what we're dealing with right now. So as I thought about your question, the way I look at it is we're allowed to do so much in Illinois over the summer. We get our 20 whatever contact days and we get after it pretty good and we get them coached up, we get them flying around. We got a pretty good idea by the time the season comes who our guy's going to be and who's the best one at doing what we're doing. And we're not deep enough. We're not like a 7A or an 8A school where we're deep enough that there may be that much competition at the position. So I was always told, if you think you got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any. And so we're to that point where when we put one on the field, we're pretty confident on who he's going to be. And just like Coach O'Sullivan said, if you think that's your, you think that's your guy, you believe in him, it's just like any other position. Like, so the only way I could see someone leaving or having to get yanked out of there is, like Coach Maddox said, with the uncoachability part, maybe doing their own thing, just kind of going rogue on you. But other than that, I think that that's the deal. But with this season, though, this might be the one that kind of gets to me at this year. We've got a situation coming in where we've got a junior and a sophomore. They're both going to be pretty good. They're both really different to the point where one's right, one's left. And one's 6'4", one might be 5'4". I mean, it's a huge difference. And they both, when we left the end of last season, they said priority one is to get these guys reps. Well, their reps have just been smashed by COVID and all the delay and all that kind of stuff. So this might be the one where we have to figure some things out on the fly and we have to see how it goes. Now, one's mentally farther ahead of the other, so that's going to obviously, like Coach Maddox said, that's the one you want on the field who can handle the decision-making. So, and that's the older one. So that'll be where we start out, and hopefully he can handle it, manage it, and we can continue to develop the younger one in that situation. But again, I think the biggest point to this answer was we would treat it like any other position too. I don't think we get emotionally tied up in the fact that this is our guy and this situation. And in all honesty, either one of those guys could go play a different position too. So it's not like we're pulling him and he's done.
Yeah.
He's just got to sit there. I would probably be more nervous about making a change on the offensive line than I would at quarterback. Like, we want to leave those 5 together as much as possible. That's the hardest one for me to sub out at any point. So.
Right. Yeah, well, isn't that true, man? Coach O'Sullivan, I want to follow up. You had said something that you said you got 3 guys right now competing for a spot. Quarterback position I always find unique because it's not always just bigger, faster, stronger, right? There's some more intangibles. What are some things that you think are going to break that? Like, what's something you're looking for the guy that's going to steal the job?
I mean, it's a comprehensive thing, right? It's not a list. Anybody who gives you that cookie cutter, like this is the top 5 things that we're talking about is not really giving you a deep dive on what they're looking at. For me, I'm excited to see in California, we're doing a slow roll here. And so when we get back together, we haven't stopped. We've adapted how we are talking football, how we are installing, how we're doing our football. And so there's going to be a midterm. Like, we're taking this is not a joke. Like, this is not, you get the keys to the car. This thing is all built on the quarterback to be successful. So you want to come in here and have an opportunity to run what I think is a very quarterback-centric offense. I want to know that you spent the time to be able to master what we're asking you to master right now. And so that will be a separator. I tell them all the time, I evaluate everything and anything. So I check, I'm sure just like everyone does, right? Like there's different ways to be able to get it, and how they ask questions, who's following through, who's early, who's late, who's encouraging, who's uplifting. One of my easiest barometers for how I think about the quarterback position, and it's ironic because we don't huddle, but when a guy walks into a huddle, whether it's like the first period of a team period or whatever, however you practice, you can tell our guys like, yo, yeah, we're good. Like is this the guy? Or if people like, oh, like we about to run it, like those type of, like that,
yeah,
you can tell immediately. And so, it's not that for me,
yeah.
I try to provide the blueprint to say, hey, if you want to be successful, this is how I've done it. Anecdotally, this is how I think you can have success from what we did last year, how we can build on it together. There's no secret sauce. You got to go in there and you got to study, you got to learn, and you got to prove to me that I can trust your decision making. And if you can't, then you don't get to play. It's that simple. And so I'm excited to see him again. I feel like some guys are going to make significant strides. Some guys have used this time well, other guys haven't, and you're not going to be able to hide.
Yeah. And that's one thing that's really cool about. So my two main sports that I've always coached were football and wrestling, right? When wrestling came around, well, that was easy. They just wrestled, and the winner played. Or the winner was the winner. And then football is like the total opposite, right? You can't. Like Coach O'Sullivan said, it's totally comprehensive. Like there's so much that goes into that evaluation. Well, guys, really appreciate your time. I feel very unworthy in this company. You guys are all incredibly accomplished, and I wish you guys all the best continued success in this upcoming season. Before I sign us off, any closing thoughts from anybody?
No, man. It was great to be on. Thanks, guys. Great to meet you all. Good luck this year.
Yeah, just wanted to thank you, and thanks for all the content you guys all put out. And I think that was one of the best things about this kind of the shutdown and everything is it slowed down for everybody. Everybody got a chance to look inward a little bit more and develop themselves a little bit more. And instead of just, as coaches, we have that tendency to just immediately, as soon as the season's over, right? What was that Permian where he throws the seniors in the garbage and moves everybody up one, like we're just boom, as soon as it's over, we're on to the next. And I think it was nice to hit that pause and kind of look around and not so much find new plays, but just kind of find, is there a better way to do it? Is there a better system? Am I missing some things I could be doing with my kids? And I think that's huge. And one more thing, sorry to take all the time, but I appreciate Coach O'Sullivan touching on, the George Floyd situation. And I think the key thing is if you're in a situation for any coach and you don't understand what you should be doing, just ask. Just ask someone that that you trust, that has maybe a better handle on it, but reach out. Your kids need you. Your coaches need you. And I mean, if you've got one black kid on your team or 90%, 95%, you've got people on your team that are struggling with this. And I think it's real important to make sure that they get the support they need and that we find ways to chip in and do our part too. So.
Yeah, same. Pleasure, guys, visiting with you all. Nice digitally meeting you guys, and look forward to seeing y'all here in person at some point.
Yeah. Well, I am truly humbled by this conversation. Three incredible guys here that we were able to get on. I hope you guys at home really enjoyed that. Look these guys up on Twitter, give them a follow, and stay tuned in here. Like, subscribe, check out what we're doing. We'll see you guys later.